AJ and Eric back for your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box. Oh, now don't do that, Eric. You're going to get called classless. Don't do it
I want to see who's
now.
gonna say it first. I couldn't help myself. What up, y'all? How's everybody
I'm
doing?
so mad at the reaction about that. Like, let the player play.
That was amazing. Shout out Angel Reese.
I mean, she won a natty. Give it to her, whatever. But that's not what we're talking about
Well,
tonight. Thank you for derailing the show within the first 5 seconds.
I knew what I
Great,
was doing.
great job. Hey, listen, it's your two favorite Detroit sports hosts, AJ and Eric, back for Beyond the Box tonight, live and ready to talk Lions football. Here's our questions for tonight. Number one, is the Detroit Lions rebuild over? And what is Jalen Carter thinking? We're going to get to all of that and more tonight, but I want to remind you of two quick things. As you're going to see throughout the show, there's going to be t-shirts that pop up, sweatshirts as well on the bottom. That's from gearupdetroit.shop. That is the official merchandise of Detroit Sports Nation. Make sure you're heading over there and checking those things out. And then I also want to remind you about Super Chat and Super Stickers, the fun and interactive way to engage with Beyond the Box during these live segments. Send us messages, stickers that stand out from the crowd while supporting the show. Just click the $ icon, follow the on-screen instructions, and let's grow this Detroit sports community together. Yes. Listen, is the Lions rebuild over? It might be. It might not be. We're talking about that tonight, and we're talking about Jalen Carter. It's all coming at you next, and we're going to get after it. All right, Eric, let's not waste any time. Let's throw the question out there. We want to hear your responses in the chat and comments as well. Eric, is the Lions rebuild over?
It may sound crazy, but it is.
Okay.
It may sound crazy, but it is over.
Okay.
I think I feel confident enough. I'm bringing it here to the camera. I feel safe enough to say that. I think it's over. I think it's safe for us to say that now. And I believe
why?
Because I look at, to me, there are different ways to set up, and I guess there are different steps of a rebuild. With the Lions regime, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, there's a new regime where they took over for the Quinn Trisha era. It's a name that we try not to talk about on this show.
It's like Voldemort.
Can't help it. I know. So even with that, I believe the first 2 years were steps of a rebuild where the Lions had to clean up their roster, clean up their books, and find a steady direction of winning for this team. I believe if you look at where they came from just a few years ago to where they're at now, where they were at points where they're trying to get rid of guys like Trey Flowers, trying to make sense of, their offense, trying to find a direction for defense, build capital at the same time. And looking at all that they have changed, looking at the direction of the team now, where we have the highest expectation that I can remember in my lifetime as a fan. And to me, are they immediate Super Bowl contenders? No. But is there a clear window of opportunity for them to win now at this point? Yes. Are there foundational pieces to help them get to that direction? Yes. Is there a light towards the end of that tunnel that truly makes sense, that has been built on hard work and maybe an accelerated plan thanks to Brad Holmes' great free agency and drafting? Yes. I think because of that, I think it's safe to say, based on the moves that they're making, which are now win-now moves, I think it's safe to make the claim that the rebuild is finally done. I believe so.
I'm with Woods Black. I don't think it's completely done. I think it's close, but I don't think it's done. Last season was fun. Last season was great. Well, let me say this. The last 10 games were fun.
Yes.
The first 6 were, fair. Or first 7 were brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that it is entirely done yet.
Okay.
I think they're close. I think they're on the precipice of turning, but everything that is thought right now that this team is going to be is merely just speculation at this point. Yes, they were really good last year, but they were really good at the end of the year last year. But we have said, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I'm going to continue to believe it. Momentum does not carry over from one year into the next.
That's true.
We do not know officially what 2023 is going to hold for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
You're 100% correct. The expectations for a Detroit Lions team have never been higher. Now, I was alive during their last playoff win. I don't remember it because I was 5 years old at that point. But even with those high expectations, I still don't think it's done yet. And I agree with Jay here. I think a playoff win or a division win solidifies, signed, sealed, delivered, run the stamp, rebuild over. That to me is going to determine whether this rebuild is over or not. Because there's still pieces that they're looking for to build even better. So technically the building's not even done yet.
And what are those pieces? From what we've seen, what they've put together in terms of free agency, they filled in a lot of their holes heading into the draft. So what are some of those pieces left that they have to fill in?
Defensive tackle, for sure.
Okay.
Defensive tackle, for sure. I would much prefer a different middle linebacker.
Of course.
And look, I mean, yeah, they kind of have solidified their running back. Goff is going to be the quarterback for the next couple of years. So you're going to hear me say something you wouldn't hear me say that often, but you probably need to get a receiver in here other than JMO because Amon-Ra is going to be out in a couple of years. So if you want to sustain success,
okay,
you got what? 2 more years of Amon-Ra, and then he hits the free agent market.
Okay.
And hopefully you do not pay him what he's going to want on the free agent market. Because that would not be worth it. You can't replace younger. It's the Tyreek Hill situation.
I'm not touching that. We'll save that for another day. We'll save that for another time. But so clearly a lot of the commenters saying keep pouring them in. Let us know what y'all think. If y'all believe that
sure.
If you think the rebuild is over or not, let us know in the comments. But to me, I believe it is, not because they've started winning. Like, yes, I agree. Half of the season they didn't. The other half they were. We saw some trajectory. We saw a path to build on, basically. I think because of that is what lets you know that the rebuild is over. I don't think the winning that you guys are necessarily looking for puts a stamp on that. I think you have to, at the very least, have a direction and a plan. Like, the Panthers don't have a plan right now in their rebuild. Like, they don't have they just got a coach. Like, they still need a quarterback. They still have a lot of holes that they need to fill in. I think while the Lions do, I totally agree with you. D tackle, linebacker, and I kind of from there, you really just want to see improvements from the young players. But in terms of that, because that's what you're looking for, just improvements from young players, and you've added veteran pieces to help them, I think that solidifies that you're ready to start winning now. Because that's the case, because that's their mind frame, it's not just, let's just wait and see, let's let them develop and see what happens. I think because winning is now the expectation, I think that kind of cements that we're not looking at rebuilding. We're looking at winning now at this point. 90% complete. Okay. All right.
And that's Robert's kind of where I'm at, right? I said they're close. I don't think they're there. If you were to ask me, is the Lions rebuild officially over? I don't think it's over. And it's all going to be dependent upon what happens in 2023. You know what? Actually, it could be dependent upon what happens in this draft. However, I want to see the product on the field before I staple something as the rebuild being over. And I'll give you a perfect reason why. Eric. Because we got another team in this town, the Detroit Tigers, who went out and spent money last season. Brought in Javi Baez, Yeah, you got to point the right way.
Yeah, I got
Brought
that
in
wrong.
Javi
Sorry.
Baez, brought in Eduardo Rodriguez. They spent money, right?
Yeah.
And their owner was asked, "Is the rebuild over?" And he said, "Yep, it's 100% over." And then they
Oh,
did what
that
they
yeah.
did last year.
Yeah, but that was
So
nuts.
that's part of the reason why I'm a little bit hesitant to go, yeah, it's over, because everything again that's being talked about right now in the national media and the Lions being scary and Peter King had him in his column and all of that. But I want to see the product on the field.
Okay. So even though you want to see the product of the field, your expectation is still, we just talked about it last week, double-digit wins this season, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
In chat, talk to me. Is that the expectation? Double-digit wins? Because if we're already setting that determination, because to me, I see 10 wins right here. Chat, tell me how many wins y'all see. I believe if that's already the mindset, like to me, the rebuild is it's a mindset. It's not necessarily the product that's in front of you. It's the plan that they're putting together. And seeing that they now have an NFC North that's whack, that they have an NFC that's not as strong, and we're now having expectations that are now further than like let's be clear. They need to win in the draft, but how many picks do they need to hit in order for them to get into where we're looking for? Maybe a
They
couple, like
they
2 or
need
3, maybe.
they need to hit at the right positions for sure.
Right, which isn't a lot, if I'm not mistaken. I would say so at least. I don't think it's a lot that they need.
No, I would agree. They've done a great job in free agency. Like
Right.
Brad Holmes has put out a masterclass, but you talk about a plan, right? And
Yes.
rebuild, and like if you have a set of blueprints for building a house, your build is not complete until you see the product in front of you.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying. Like, yeah, they have this plan and they have this mindset and the players that they're going after, and they've started to bring those people in and have done a really good job of doing that. But yet, what happens if you're at week 8, Eric, and they're 2-6?
I mean, we just saw what
Is
it
the
looked like
rebuild
last season.
over? Well, that's what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
And
you
I don't plan or expect or am wishing that. I'm just saying, show me tangible evidence on the field that this plan that you have implemented is working.
okay, but so if they start 2-6, that means you're seeing some major regression from some young players. Like and at that point, you're not looking to replace them. So that plan of building is not necessarily you're looking at them, giving them another year. Like, okay, you're good your first year. You didn't get too hot your second year. We're looking for something special the third year. So considering that's the plan, like you just brought up the idea of building a house. If you have the idea of what the house is going to look like, and as long as your contractor's not drunk on the job, you should be fine in getting that plan put together. I don't have to worry about that with Brad Holmes. We all trust Brad Holmes to come in and do the job right. We all expect Dan Campbell to keep his players in the best position to win. And I think because of that, to me, the mindset through fans and the franchise is winning, not building. It's winning right now.
Right. And I think it's like a division winner or playoff win. Because again, it's great that you have this builder, but you have to see the tangible evidence. That's all I'm saying. Because if you have regression and you have to go and you're not going to replace those young guys, but you got to fill holes again next year, the build is not over at that point. There has to be, and somebody had mentioned in the chat that like winning a Super Bowl would mean that right here. Huggy Bear said that winning a Super Bowl would mean that the rebuild is over. I'm not gonna go that far
it doesn't have to be
because
all that.
winning a championship, yes, it takes an immense amount of talent, but it also takes a little bit of luck as well. So that's why I want to say, like, to me, if you are a perennial playoff contender with somebody who can get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Lions have the 4th best odds in the NFC, even though Vegas only has them at 9 wins, which we said was ludicrous last
It
show.
was. Mm-hmm.
If you are a perennial contender, that plan has worked. But right now, it's hypothetical. It's not, they're not in the playoffs right now. They got to win games. So we can't have that regression. Don't have that regression. I'll stamp as rebuild over. Rebuild's not over until the proof is in the pudding.
But you believe they're in position to start getting those wins, though, right?
They're in position.
Right.
But you know what it takes to win in the NFL. It's going to take a lot more than just what's written on paper.
Right. But it also takes like the foundation pieces to help put that in place as well. It's like, so Carolina's not there. I don't think Atlanta's there. I don't think like a lot of teams in NFC, like they're kind of taking steps back. Like I don't want to say the Bears. The Bears are still further off. The Lions are sitting, I think, prettier than anybody else. I think their rebuild has accelerated based on last season. I don't think it's gonna necessarily
I
take
agree.
a like Kool-Aid. I don't think it'll be a or Huggy Bear, excuse me. I don't think it'll be a Super Bowl to validate that. And honestly, again, I don't necessarily think it applies to the immediate wins right now. I think it's just the mindset of where this team is planning right now. And considering we're all speaking on, you just said it. You said, how is Vegas only picking them to win 9 games? Like, if we
Right.
have that mind frame,
We do have that mindset, but again, maybe I mean, that's still all hypothetical. You know
of
what I mean?
course, that's our
Like,
job.
it
Yes,
is our job, right? We analyze, we look at the schedule, we go, no, these teams aren't as good as our team, so we
right.
think that they're going to win, but that doesn't always translate to wins. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just trying to be realistic here. I don't want the rebuild to be over. But what I mean by what we talk about with rebuild is not like they don't have to endure losing to continue
No, right.
rebuilding. You build on what you did last year. We said last year 9-8 is the floor for this team because that's now the level that they've set with this rebuild.
Okay.
And for the rebuild to continue, you've got to build upon that. Listen, there's this belief that like you have to rebuild, which means you have to tear everything down. I don't think you have
No,
to tear everything
no,
down.
you don't.
What we have said and what I agree with wholeheartedly is the Lions are setting up and have set up and have done a great job building the foundation. We've used the analogy of a house. You cannot build a sturdy house without a strong foundation. And they have put pieces in fantastically that are great foundational pieces. I agree with you
Yes.
on that. But then once you have the foundation laid, you got to construct the walls. You got to put the roof on. You got to get those other pieces in place to make sure that you have a finished product.
Right.
They're close. They're not there just yet.
This is what I think you're doing though. To me, the way you're describing it, the house is already set. You're just making sure the house is functioning correctly. Like, do the Lions have a front office that you trust? Yes. A coaching staff that
Yes.
wants to be here? Yes. A
Yes.
quarterback that can help you win games? Yes. A offensive line that can protect him and keep you explosive. We just saw them look like a top 5 last year. Defensive upside, star players in the making, guys like Aiden, guys like Kirby Joseph, even the cornerbacks I think have star potential as well. Like, I think seeing that, to me, again, I keep repeating the same thing. The rebuild to me is the planning. It's not necessarily the play on the field, in my opinion. I think it's the planning and the plotting of your team's direction. I think the Lions have that set. We just need to make sure that it's gonna turn out right. That's how I look at it.
Okay. I still want to see tangible proof. I still want to like and again, maybe it's a little bit of PTSD from what the
That's
Tigers have been going
yeah,
through. You know
for
what I'm
you for
saying?
sure. Yes.
There's for me for
Yeah.
sure, but at the same time, there's also the trauma of being a Lions fan. I
Right.
love this team. And yes, we agree that this is not the same old
No,
Lions,
not at
right?
all.
It is not the same old
Yes.
Lions. But but I want to see the product on the field.
Okay.
I want to see it. Get to 10 wins next year. Win the division and we can say, "Okay, now we're done with the building phase.
Mhm.
All we have to keep doing year after year is just retool, retool, revamp and continue to be perennial
Mhm.
contenders." Now, one of the ways that we are going to do that is through the draft.
Yes.
And we know that if you're like us, you are as excited as we are about this draft.
As they should be, for real, man. Listen, if you guys join us for our exclusive 2023 NFL Draft Live show, where your favorite analysts, AJ, yours truly, and Dylan will be breaking down each first round pick as it happens. That's right, we'll be reacting live to all the drama, surprises, and jaw-dropping moments of the coming up NFL draft.
And we want you to be a part of the mix too. Share your thoughts, your reactions, predictions live in the comments, and we will be interacting with you throughout the entire show. It's going to be a blast. You don't want to miss out on the chance to engage with your fellow Lions fans and your favorite Detroit sports host as well.
So do it right now. Mark your calendars for the 2023 NFL Draft Live Show, April 27th. Pull your phone out. Do it right now. Hosted by Detroit Sports Nation. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single moment of this epic event.
Yeah, we will see you guys there. We're excited because Brad Holmes is a drafting genius. And as always, go Lions. Our attention is going to turn to the draft right now because of this comment right here from Mark Carter at 6. We're talking about Jalen Carter tonight because look at that. These guys, there's reports that come out today that Jalen Carter's agent has declined interviews with teams that are picking beyond number 6. Or no, beyond number 10. I'm sorry. Beyond the top 10. Because he's been telling people he's going in the top 10. There's no way he doesn't go in the top 10. How do you feel about Jalen Carter with all that he's been through this offseason? Is this a good move for him? Or is this kind of one of those, red flag things again that just keep on happening and happening and happening?
I don't want to say it's a red flag because while I buy his confidence, I do believe he'll go top 10. I don't think the Lions are going to pass him if he gets to 6. I don't listen to any of the smoke screens like, oh, he's not I don't believe that. I think they have enough stability on this team to where they think they can help him out. But I don't love this tactic, honestly. Like, I really don't. No. I think you need, in the NFL, we know when, I don't even say young players, all players, when you're, in the public eye for making mistakes and owners are looking at you as a risk to their investment, they're somewhat looking at you to convince them that they're making the right decision. Yeah,
for sure.
I don't think this helps his case at all. Now, again, I do think he's going to go top 10. I think a lot of teams can use his services, but I do think this maybe it turned off a lot of teams. I think it some may look at it as a red flag, but if they're looking at it as, oh, you don't even want to talk to us for real? Oh, it's like that? Okay. There's some other people we can look at. We're not that desperate. It's a lot of prideful owners and front offices in the NFL. I don't look at this as a great move, but I don't think it's going to kill him, honestly.
Do you think it's a red flag?
I don't want to say it's a red flag. Again, I don't think it's not smart, but I think teams are so desperate in the NFL draft, they're willing to let something slide. And knowing what he brings, I don't think they're going to look at this as a red flag.
I love this and I hate it all at the same time.
Oh, man.
And here's why. I love it because I'm like, no, it ain't like that. Don't give me that, man. Listen, I'm just going to say this out front right now. I saw all the comments headed her way. I watched the video. Yeah, did she chase her down? Okay, she chased her down. But
who cares? Yes, she earned it.
Can we just stop? Anyways, let's not do that so I get distracted because I feel like we got to talk about Jalen Carter. Anyway, I love it in the sense that he's not going outside the top 10.
No way.
It's just not. It's foolish. Because the Lions are going to take him at 6.
I agree.
If he's there, every bone in my body says he's a Lion. Yep. It's almost like Panay falling to 7, Hutch falling to 2. It's one of those situations. He's like Brad Holmes. When we watch the next episode of Inside the Den, it's going to be like there's one name on our board again, right? It's like that's what it's going to be because at the end of the day, the football talent is incredible. He's really good, and it fills the pressing need that you may have. However, it again doesn't look good, right? Yeah. The perception around it is not great because what if one of those teams outside the top 10 were willing to trade up into the top 10 for Jalen Carter? It works out great for the Lions, in my opinion. I think he'll be there at 6, and I think the Lions will take him. But I just like at a certain point, you almost want to tell Jalen, "Hey, Jalen, listen, just go to your room, work out at home. Do not come in public until April 28th."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, just protect him from himself. And as his agent, first of all, like I feel like this is not a Jalen Carter issue. This is an agent issue. Like, his
Mm,
agent's the one that made the
yeah.
statement. The agent
Eh,
knows what's been going on, and this tone deaf moron goes, "Oh, he's going top 10. We're not gonna go and take interviews," making his client look even worse.
mhm.
Like, this is not a so if we want to say like, "Oh, he has character issues," blah, well, listen, you don't know the facts for
Right.
sure. You can't say that. It's all alleged at this
Yep.
point. So let's not cast this guy as some kind of bad apple before we know who he is. And if we trust Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, as we said we've done, then they're going to do their homework and they're going to make the right pick. But this is not a Jalen Carter issue.
Okay.
This is his doggone agent looking like an idiot.
I agree with that. Even though unfortunately it's still going to look like an extension of him, just because that's how fans treat players. Unfortunately, like that, they're not going to look at the agent and say, "Oh, he's representing." I totally agree with you on that one. There have been a lot of questions. I see them in the chat as well. People are now questioning not even only his decision making, but now on top of it is his work ethic as well. Nick Fairley comments keep coming up left and right. Whether they're fair or
I
not,
know.
I don't know. But it is a
True Teller
question.
has been all
Yeah,
over
yeah,
Jalen Carter. Like, even weeks ago when we were talking about Jalen, like, True Teller, you are consistent, if nothing
yes.
else, and I appreciate the
Salute you,
heck
my
out of
dude,
that
for sure.
because you are very
Hmm.
consistent. I still, again, like, okay, he struggled at the pro day. I get that, but the kid literally had his life hanging in the balance with all the stuff going on. And 9 pounds to me is, like you said when I first told you, 9 pounds ain't that big a
No,
deal.
especially not for a defensive tackle. Like you're not
I
gonna sweat about 9 pounds.
No. So yeah, I mean, even Jay like likens it to Jamal's
There
agent,
you
right?
go.
Like Jamal's it's a
Yep.
lot of these things that we say about players, a lot of the statements that come out come from their agents. And like to True Teller's point right here about Jalen being in charge of his agent, no. No. I don't I will firmly stand by the fact that these players, they sit back and their agent does all the work for them.
Yeah.
Now, they may give them certain directions here and there, but I know from a firsthand source that when it comes to professional athletes and agents, players are not involved in the process
Right.
at all.
Hmm.
It is all the agent. So when his agent puts out a statement and says, "Yeah, you know, um, we're not talking to teams outside the top 10 because I believe Jalen's a top 10 talent," like,
Hmm.
great. But you just made this is on the
It
agent.
is. It is. And the last thing you want, and I talked about this before. I feel like is there some concern? I understand the comments. I definitely
For
understand people
sure.
wondering, but
100%.
you should be even more worried about Chicago correcting that and then having to deal with that for the next 5-10 years and seeing him putting a dent in a pretty secure offensive line that you've been building well for the past couple seasons. Like I don't want to take that risk in any way, shape, or form. And if we're also not going to overhype and overreact in praising pro days for quarterbacks, we can't kill a defensive tackle for how he performs in his pro day as well. Like I understand, like the conditioning. Yeah, even then, no, I don't, because I'm not expecting Carter to be a full 3 down like player anyway. So I'm not gonna sweat about that, y'all. Like it's the risk is way worse or higher than the reward. You don't want to let him go to the Chicago Bears and then let him be your worst enemy for the next 5 years. You don't. You do not.
Dre, I like and appreciate your comment, and I know what you're saying,
Legendary.
but I think that it's just a bit off base
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that when it comes to speaking to the media and selling Jalen to these teams, That's not Jalen's job. That's why he hired an
Right.
agent. But when he's at camp or when he gets drafted or when he's after a game that he's had 4 sacks and won the Lions a game with a fumble recovery, like, yeah, he'll speak to the media for himself at that point. But right now, this all pre-draft noise, as I think Huggy Bear said earlier, all this pre-draft noise is coming from the agent.
It is.
I mean, and you can look at the reports. It literally said his agent said they are not taking. They have declined interviews with top teams outside the top 10. Like, that's the agent, and that's on the agent, not on Jalen. Because I don't know. Maybe I have a soft spot in my heart for this kid for whatever reason because of all the things that have gone on. Self-inflicted wounds. Okay, I'm not
Of course.
excusing
Of
behavior
course.
by any stretch of the imagination, but we talked about this. Why is he? Why does the arrest warrant come down the day the combine starts
Mm-hmm.
when it happened back in the fall? Why is all of these things happening to where you've got this kid who, yeah, made a mistake. He is also come to an agreement on that mistake. And honestly, if we are to hold that against him after he's taken the course of action that he's taken, owning up to it, taking his penalty, getting his probation, community service, and all of that, then that says a lot more about us than it does about
Mm-hmm.
him.
Absolutely. Like if you pick him up in the top 6, again, from knowing from where he started from as a number 1 overall pick projected, if he doesn't pan out, I'm not going to look at it. I'll blame a little bit of the Lions' development, but a lot of that's going to fall on him. I don't think it will be a bad pick for you to wind up with somebody like a guy like Jalen Carter. And I see in the comments, yes, he probably is going to be a 2-down lineman that's a run stopper. He'll be able to help situationally in some pass areas. But even if you have to take him off and then you have to play fast, bringing in a James Houston, bringing in Hutch in a different position, blitzing off the edge, like, yeah, there's ways that you can be creative with that. You don't need to just be meat and potatoes and tell him to go get, like, no, there's ways to be creative about it. So yeah, that's a risk I'm not willing to take. I do not want to see him go to Chicago.
And to this point from Truth Teller, what happens when he experiences another stressful time in his life? How will he handle
He's a
that?
kid,
Well,
man.
the answer to that question is we
We have
don't
no
know.
idea.
But we do know that part of the modus operandi, the MO of the Detroit Lions and their rebuild, going back to our question, is character and building character.
Yeah.
It's not, it is about the football player and it is about the grit, but they're also, I mean, in one of those videos inside the den, they were talking about Malcolm Rodriguez and said he's the guy that you want your daughter dating. Like, those are the type of guys that you're
Remember
looking
that.
for,
I
right?
remember that.
And if you are the sum total of the people that you surround yourself with. This is true across all of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of your station of life, where you're at, what profession, like, you are the sum total of the people that you hang out with.
Yes, 100%.
And if there are those types of character guys in the Detroit Lions, and they have a system in place that they have built, and they bring in a superior defensive talent that has a lot of question marks, but they surround him with the right people,
Yes. Because
good things can
to be
happen.
clear, this isn't like gotta talk about him again. This isn't Quinn Trisha, where you had young
No.
developing talent and he tore them down because he's a terrible coach. You have Dan Campbell, who's pro building his guys up, making them feel confident, putting them in the right positions to be successful. I don't think that would change for Jalen Carter, even if he's making mistakes. You were right. We don't know what it's going to look like if he does, but you have to trust that you have the right pieces around him based on the rebuild, that they'll be able to put them in the best positions possible. And I think that's exactly what they have in front of them.
And they're going to have the opportunity.
Yes.
And we'll see. We could be totally wrong about this. We both believe that if Carter's there at 6, the Lions are going to take him. But I will also say this, and you're going to have to hold me to this because sometimes I get in my head a little bit. But if they don't draft Jalen Carter and he's there, we have also said that we trust Brett Holmes. And there's a reason why they didn't draft him. So we're going to have to find a way to be like, okay, do we trust him more than we liked Jalen Carter?
There was a tidbit in that owners meeting that they had where they said they were doing their research on him and they learned something interesting about him. They didn't say if it was good or bad. I believe a beat writer asked him, and they didn't specify. They just said
He
it's
said it was
interesting. We don't
Yeah.
know what that means, but they're doing their research. But I'm with you 100%.
And listen, he's the most polarizing player in the draft. It's kind
Yeah.
of like Jared Goff being the most polarizing Lion of maybe all time. There's people that love him. So when you say good things about him, they love it. But then the other people come out of the woodwork and hate you for it. And then when you say bad things about it, the people that love him come out of the woodwork and hate you for it. So you can't win either way with Jared Goff.
Facts.
It's almost the same thing with Jalen
It's
Carter.
getting there.
Because you get all these red flags, but then you find out like Todd McShay had tweeted a long time ago that he had some character issue, right?
Mhm.
And it turns out he's using his scholarship money to pay for meals for his teammates. So let's balance this together, right?
Right.
There's all this bad and media hype and draft noise,
Yeah.
but we also are not with Jalen Carter 24/7.
Right.
And we only know what's reported on. And if you only read headlines, then you're going to have a lot of misinformation. So
Exactly.
let's see how it shakes out.